year was 1863, and Harriet Tubman sat huddled in the U.S. Navy ship John Adams along with the men of the 2nd South Carolina Infantry. It was 2 in the morning, and the soldiers, led by Tubman herself, planned to surprise the depleted Confederate forces holding a nearby plantation that housed hundreds of slaves. It worked. The Union soldiers overwhelmed the enemy, torching the plantation's houses, mills, and outbuildings, and setting free the over 700 slaves who waited eagerly at river's edge to climb aboard the ships to freedom. Harriet Tubman became the first woman in U.S. history to lead an armed raid. But then again, she was used to making history. Herself an escaped slave woman, Tubman had spent years going deep into enemy territory to rescue those in bondage, making 13 trips over the course of time back to the South, helping to free over 70 people. While Harriet Tubman was the most famous conductor on what was known as the Underground Railroad, she was by no means the only one. This secret network of shepherds and conductors, trails and hideouts spanning the country managed to rescue over 100,000 slaves by the year 1850, nearly 1,000 a year at its height. But the work was never easy. No one knew the whole network for secrecy's sake, with conductors helping where they could, entrusting the rest to others. Travel would happen by night, and it was far too easy to get lost on the way. All the while, slave hunters would never be far behind, stopping at nothing to bring back those who thought they had reached safety, and even kidnapping free blacks, especially children, to take away and sell into slavery back home. Conductors came from all backgrounds, but the Underground Railroad would never have left the station without the help of these free blacks, many of whom knew firsthand what it was like to be enslaved, and all of whom ran the risk of finding themselves in bondage if they were ever caught. The Christian Church played a prominent role in this resistance movement against the evil of slavery and its support by the powers that be. Even the Underground Railroad itself took on churchy terminology, being called the Freedom Train or the Gospel Train. The Ohio River was called the Jordan, and Canada, the Promised Land. While Harriet Tubman was perhaps just as well known by her nickname, Moses of her people. On January 1st, 1863, the new year ushered in a whole new world as President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, enacting the Underground Railroad's chief aim of liberty for all under slavery's cruel thumb. Yet though the edict had been broadcast, it would take until the end of the Civil War to go into full effect. But we would be fooling ourselves to think that Lincoln's edict or the Union's victory ended slavery in our nation. Things are not so very different today, as slavery of a different kind casts its ugly shadow across both the North and the South. Yet those under its heavy hand often are unaware of their captivity. For the slave master is Satan himself, cunning as he is cruel. As Jesus once said, everyone who sins is a slave to sin, and Satan will do everything in his power to keep it that way. Now, just as then, the church is called to play a prominent role in breaking slavery's power. But the work is never easy. We are those who have been freed from Satan and his power by the blood of Christ, but who are sent into the fray to free others from bondage, putting our life and worldly freedom at risk, and outmaneuvering the tactics of an enemy who doesn't play by the rules. All the while, we are not free from danger ourselves. The enemy is crafty and unrelenting, enticing us with temptations to give in and give up. Like the recently escaped slaves who had to believe they were free when they didn't feel it, we may struggle to trust completely in the freedom God has won for us when the devil and his accusations are always hot on our trail. We may not know the whole map or the details of the route to freedom, but we know the way because we know the conductor at every stop, Jesus Christ, who has broken the power of Satan's slavery. And so we will prevail. For the day is coming soon when God's cosmic emancipation proclamation, first announced in the life and death of Jesus, will resound through all of creation. The war will be won, putting our bondage to an end once and for all.